streaming on the free CBS News app.
Sorry in advance if you guys end up hearing the crying baby. He is busy eating right now.
The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
You're gonna pack the court?
Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're senators. I'm not going to answer the question
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is,
Justice, radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Gentlemen,
This
I think
this is so unprecedented.
we have
list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right.
This is September 2020.
Remember
yeah,
that debate and all the
was such a
interruptions? That was the
shit show in
first
that
time that
debate.
they debated. That was September 29th, 2020. Let's talk about the lessons from that debate for this rematch. John Dickerson. Well, clearly the microphone is going to change things tonight, so there won't be as many interruptions.
That will change things. It's questionable about what Donald Trump learned. We know, those of us who covered the Trump presidency, is that there were often moments where his aides, his family went to him, said, you know, you got to tone it down. You've got to be more presidential. And it would stick for very short periods of time. But his gut is something he believes in. Aides have variously talked about his times at rallies as creating a sense of giving him oxygen. He wants to be that person. That person was the one interrupting Joe Biden. The problem for Trump in that debate was that people thought, and the polling showed this, we don't want 4 more years of that in our living room. Joe Biden was there as a representative of returning the norms of the presidency. We'll see how, and if any of those lessons conveyed to tonight.
Because people thought, oh my gosh, it's the pandemic. Life is too chaotic. I kind of like this Joe Biden. He seems more calming than Donald Trump. Those were the stylistic, at least, differences. There was a lot more, obviously, but that's what I'm saying, that debate and the chaoticness of it, I think, probably stuck with people.
And as I recall, Nora, at the time when he said, because we're all raised in houses where your parents tell you, do not tell anyone to shut up. At the time when he said shut up, I think most people actually understood why he felt that, because he was so exasperated trying to get a word in edgewise. I'd be curious to know where in the debate that moment came. I don't remember it as we sit here today.
It was about halfway through.
It was halfway through.
And even in the room, because we were up in the rafters watching this whole thing, you could just feel it in the room. Everyone was just like, oh gosh, is this what it's going to be like, you know, when they meet again? The fact that the microphone is muted, first of all, we've all heard from people, sources, friends, family, how excited they are that they're finally implementing that rule.
Who do you think
how does that change? I don't know.
You don't.
And I really wonder if either of them has practiced for that phenomenon, because our friends at CNN pointed out yesterday how it's going to work, and if it goes as they say it will, you literally will see lips moving, but you will not be able to hear them. So do they practice facial expressions? Do they, you know, scoff, or do they just stand there and shake their head? No, it's not true. They're going to have to wait their turn. And that changes the dynamic in all these things, because what do we always seize on? It's those moments of friction.
And that is the theater, and that is about the impression. And if you remember, in that period in time back in 2020, Joe Biden was running on this argument of competence in the midst of chaos, restoring order. I mean, we didn't have a vaccine then. We were in the midst of this pandemic that had upended our lives, and that's what's so interesting about Anthony's polling about the economy and people remembering it fondly under Donald Trump, forgetting he was the one who shut down the economy because of what was happening. But I think in our polling, one of the things that's so interesting, Ed, is when we talk about the seriousness of the issues facing the country now, and we are only hearing the theater, we haven't heard, when you look at the polling, 75% of voters say Trump should explain his plans for the future. 69% say Biden should. That implies they haven't heard the affirmative argument for the future of the country.
We haven't heard from either of them.
Well, in fact, the studies have been done by even conservative-leaning economists that Trump's plan to expand tariffs would actually lead to an increase in inflation, correct? Yes. Well, and so that is something that hasn't, that sort of sharp policy debate that I I think that voters are craving. Wait a minute, I do want to know what their plan is for the future. How are they going to make my life better and my children's lives better? What are they going to do for me, the taxpayer?
And also, this goes back to, did you prepare for the debate or didn't you prepare for the debate? You can't riff your way through a presidency. You can't just wing it and be kind of in the moment when you're dealing with things like alliances that need to be tended when you have invasions happening. You can't just decide on your economic policy on the fly when you've got massive moving forces globally, also with the advent of artificial intelligence. You have to have a plan. You have to think things through. You have to anticipate. And all of that comes down to this stylistic difference between the two of them. So it is theater review, but it attaches to a crucial thing about the presidency, which is that it is a job that you cannot just improvise your way through.
Don't you find it hard to believe that he's done no preparation? I mean, I know he says that he's prepared for this his whole life when he goes out on rallies. But this is such a big moment for both of them.
Must be Trump.
Because the research, I know Margaret and Nora are like, yeah, I can kind of believe that he has a big
What in his previous behavior would lead you to believe that he's cracking the books?
Because I just think that this is different. There is so much at stake for both of them. There always is. But in this particular case, Joe Biden has to bring it to show, look, that I'm physically capable of doing this. Donald Trump has to show that I can be, quote, presidential, that I can, quote, behave.
Biden has to show that
do that.
Yeah.
They both have something to prove to the audience tonight.
We're going to find out in less than 25 minutes.
And I can't wait.
I know, exactly. And when we come back, we're going to talk about these key battleground states, how each campaign thinks they can achieve victory in the race to 270 electoral votes. Remember, that's what it's about, these 7 battleground states. We'll talk about it. You're watching CBS News.
So from what it seems like is exactly what they said. Trump has to show the world that he can be mature, he can handle things responsibly, that he isn't just some iron fist, because you had him constantly throwing jabs all of 2020, even in 2022 during the governor election, to the point where a lot of people think that some governors ended up losing because Trump ended up backing them. And on the flip side, Biden has to show how his policies have been much better. They've been more aligned with what America is, and he has to prove to the world that he can speak fluently and he can have a conversation without stumbling over his words every 2 seconds. I'm excited for this.
Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Okay, let's go. You guys good?
Hey.
All right, we good?
Keep going.
The clock, it's ticking.
Off we go.
60 minutes. 60 minutes.
60 minutes.
It's time for 60 Minutes, Sundays on CBS.
An original documentary from CBS reports.
AI is among the most world-changing technologies ever.
Curing diseases, scientific breakthroughs, making lives better.
It can help us with medical discoveries, scientific discoveries, doing better agriculture, having cures for things like Alzheimer's.
It's also going to really transform the way we work.
The uplifting potential of artificial intelligence is limitless.
It gives you a friend, somebody to chat with 24/7 that is non-judgmental. He makes me feel loved and desired.
And so are its downfalls.
The problem with all this AI is that it's unpredictable and uncontrollable.
The choices we make now will have lasting effects for decades, maybe even centuries.
The ChatGPT revolution, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
We are about to see American weapons in the hands of Mexican cartels.
A gun pipeline to Mexico.
We are arming the cartels.
100%, no doubt about it.
Happening right under our noses.
Who's doing something about this? Nobody.
A CBS Reports exclusive.
Most Americans have no idea that we are effectively arming the enemy next door.
This is the story the American people need to know.
Arming cartels, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education. Both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News streaming.
Welcome to America Decides, Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to Debate Night coverage here on CBS. We are just moments away from that debate, and we're learning President Biden has just arrived at the debate site. After the debate, President Biden is going to head to North Carolina for a rally tomorrow. North Carolina is one of 7 states where this election will be decided. Now, of those 7 states, Joe Biden won 6 of them in the last election. The one state that he did not win was North Carolina, right, Major Garrett? But I know you're going to break it down for us because I am so obsessed with these 7 states.
Exactly. Good evening, Nora. Good evening, everyone. I know it feels a little early to bring back our old friend, the Electoral College map, but look, we have a presidential debate in June, so it gets early around here with the campaign 2024. So, stop me if you've heard this before. Who wins this election is going to come down to 7 battleground states. Nora just referred to them. What are they? Let's go through them once again. Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and as Nora just mentioned, North Carolina, as well as Georgia. Now, in 2020, Biden won 6 of those states. So we asked each campaign, what do they think?
So I think Trump would win Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia. I think Biden would win Pennsylvania. And then between Nevada and North Carolina, I'm still going to say Trump on those.
Is the easiest path for them to achieve victory. Let's first start with the incumbent President Biden. Now, if he wins all the lean and likely Democratic states on our friend the map, he just needs to win the states the campaign affectionately calls the blue wall. That's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. The president would also, again, need to pick up one electoral vote from Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. That would put him at exactly 270 electoral votes. We all know that's the magic number. Now let's flip to the Trump side of the equation. If he wins all the lean and likely Republican states he won 4 years ago, the campaign feels their clearest path to victory: hold North Carolina, which he won in 2020, and then flip battleground states Georgia and Pennsylvania. That would bring Trump right to 270. Of course, we all know the easiest path to victory is not always how elections play out, so here's at least one more scenario. Let's say Trump carries every state he won in 2020, along with the same electoral votes from Nebraska and Maine. That would put him at 235 electoral votes. If Trump wins the 3 states he lost in 2020 by less than 1%, that's Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia, he would have 272 electoral votes and be returned to the Oval Office. Nora and everyone, back to you.
So realistically, I think Trump has a good shot at winning.
We are joined now by CBS News political contributors, Democratic strategist Joel Payne and Republican strategist Terry Sullivan. Guys, good to see you both.
Hey there,
Hello,
Dale.
hello. Hello. Joel, we're going to start with you. What do you think Biden needs to do tonight to win this debate?
Well, I think, Gail, there are 2 C's: contrast and consolidation. The president needs to focus on consolidating his base. It's something that Donald Trump has been able to do more effectively to this point. Joe Biden needs to focus on bringing home those core Democratic constituencies that waned a bit in public opinion polls. And I think focusing on abortion, focusing on democracy, I think he'll hope to accomplish that. And accomplish that with contrast, showing that this is a race between 2 very different presidents with 2 very different visions of America. And I think if Joe Biden is able to put that forward, he and his campaign will feel very confident that they have a successful night tonight.
We'll see. You know, Terry, listen, Donald Trump could almost say the exact same thing. What does a win look like for him tonight?
You know, in my experience, Gail, of prepping candidates for these debates is you've got both a strategic goal and a tactical goal. And the tactical goal is to have that viral breakout moment, that soundbite. And that's really important. Whatever the message is, that you have these moments that are concise and get played over and over again for days after the debate. Strategically, Trump needs to make this about the issues that voters care about and that he's leading on, like the economy, inflation, crime, the securing securing the border, those are the issues that he's really, winning on at the moment, and that voters care about the most, and prosecute the case against Joe Biden for doing a poor job on those issues. And I think he can do that.
Terry, I think you're so right about a viral moment, because for people that don't watch the whole debate like we intend to do, what they rely on are those clips that they see on the news the very next day. Thank you both.
All right, ahead, we'll give you a sneak peek into how we plan to fact-check the candidates.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy. And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback. Hey, this is pretty fun. But wait, there's more.
It's gonna be such a fucking interesting debate. I guess the big thing is just trying to figure out how they're gonna deal with not being able to just blurt over each other. Oh man, I'm so fucked. Hold on. Come on. I feel like Trump's gonna have a hard time with this. It all depends on if Biden ends up letting his anger get the best of him. If Biden ends up getting the best, Biden's anger ends up getting the best of him, then I feel like Trump has a good shot. But otherwise, it's Biden all day.
In Manhattan, with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence.
90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns.
But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism.
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
They're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Haitians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Hey there, welcome to The Uplift. I thought she was a groom, and I stepped back and I went, oh, you're the queen. She's gonna be with me every instant that I'm alive.
I just wanted to see if you'd go to Disneyland with me today.
I look over at him and he's smiling.
I'm gonna remember that the rest of my life.
They told us when he was gonna be born, he was only gonna live for 30 minutes. It's really a miracle that he's with us today.
The Uplift, stream now on the free CBS News app.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
On our places, bright, shiny faces.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my two good friends, and we talk about the work.
So, while I'm fucking waiting, today was fucking... It wasn't difficult, but I ended up getting forced at work, which is never fun. Ended up starting in one unit, then ended up having to switch over to another because someone had to get relieved. Ended up switching to another, and then finally went back to the first unit. It wasn't a difficult day, but it was fucking boring. The highlight of my day was fucking just switching between unit and unit. It was kind of interesting because when someone ends up getting cuffed and sent to SEG or whatever, they call it getting arrested, which is funny because you have to get arrested to get into prison, and then apparently in prison you can get arrested.
Your morning routine
of journalists that we have built here at CBS, not for just this debate, Nora, but for the entire campaign and for everything that falls into the disinformation, misinformation space. Forensic journalists, data journalists who will do this work 7 days a week from now until forever, basically. Tonight, we will unveil the CBS Confirmed team to take a look at the things that the campaigns and the candidates say tonight that most need a fact check. Either there's missing context or it's a complete falsehood. We will explain all of that and, like not just tonight, but throughout this process with the CBS Confirmed team, show our work. How did we reach the conclusion to verify something is true or identify it as something false or something in between? We'll not only explain the verdict we've reached, but how we got there.
That's excellent. I think we're all looking forward to that. It's such an important element of what we do is fact-checking this. I also just think about having covered so many presidential contests, we usually have the candidates lay out big pieces of policy, like their tax plan or their health plan, or in the case of Trump, who has talked about a lot of things that he was going to unveil. It just hasn't happened. There's no big policy discussion.
Think about how much we used to talk about health care. I mean, in the Obama years. And it was a constant, and then in the Democratic primary, I mean, one of the things is that ideas weren't really debated in the Republican primary because the major candidate didn't participate. So we haven't had debate, policy debates have kind of died out over the last several cycles, but they're really, it really now is threadbare, and that's one of the challenges for the moderators tonight, which is to get them to do more than just give kind of a top line, but in fact articulate what and how their policies work.
And you got some pretty hefty. I've seen anything like this before either. That's
because there are two presidents.
Yes, because there are two presidents, and because there seemed to be such dissatisfaction with both candidates on both sides. I also find that very fascinating, that both sides say, I'm not happy with my choices.
I think back to the debate that y'all moderated in early 2020. What was one of the biggest headlines coming out of that night?
Well, that was like herding cats. That was very difficult.
The big headline was Joe Biden made a policy pledge, right? Yes. I will nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court, and I will make that happen on my first choice. That was a new policy thing. It was a headline. It was something he can run on the rest of the time. What's to say one of them doesn't do that tonight and suggest something meaty and somewhat policy-driven that drives headlines?
Who might that be?
Who would propose that?
Yes.
I mean, either of them could do it.
No, who might that be that you think would create a headline? Because I think debates are about messaging and they're about moments. It's what Terry said. Somebody is going to try to make a moment, whether deliberately, in a good way, or inadvertently.
But we want
somebody wants a moment.
But we'll stay grounded and knowing that actually they're not defined by what they do in these 90 minutes. They have huge, long records. Promises made in the evening. We have a record against which we can check them, whether they're just blowing smoke or whether they've put together a team and a vision to execute that idea. Because these two candidates have been tested in the job and facing the reality that tonight might get into fantasy.
And how do you characterize each other's record? Each president has 4 years, nearly 4 years for Joe Biden, a full 4 years for President Trump. And if they wade into that and they mischaracterize that, we will be there to describe what is or isn't true.
What we see in our polling so often, though, is the short memories Americans have.
Sure.
And so it's not just fact-checking, it's reminding people that when they tried to recast Donald Trump as Ronald Reagan, peace through strength, well, actually, he tried to pull troops out of Germany, South Korea, and Japan. That it is not about America fighting wars now, as Donald Trump will say. America's not actively involved in wars. We're just in such a different information space, and I think that's what's fascinating about what you're doing here, Major, where we are not just fact-checking and elevating truth. We have to actively bring down untruth and tell you, no, this is wrong, this is why it's wrong, because that eco-space out there is spreading these untruths in ways, in outlets other than ours.
We are moments away from this debate. Let's get a quick check-in with Nancy Cordes and Robert Costa there in Atlanta. Nancy?
Nora, the president is going to want to talk about a range of issues tonight: reproductive rights, taxes, the economy. But first and foremost, he wants to make the case that Donald Trump is too dangerous to allow back into the Oval Office. He'll say he's now a convicted felon, that he inspired the January 6th insurrectionists, that he admires dictators, that he's under indictment here in Georgia, in this very county, Fulton County. That is the overarching case that he's looking to make in the next 90 minutes.
Nancy Cordes, thank you. Robert Costa, you are there in the spin room as well. Final thoughts.
I just was speaking to some Trump campaign advisors, and they said this is all about former President Trump trying to win over those Nikki Haley Republicans. He's already got his base.
I would have voted
can
for
his
Nikki
temperament
Haley,
tonight, his personality, his answers on really important policy issues, can it convince independents, traditional Republicans, those who have skepticism about him, to give him another shot, a full look? We'll see. 90 minutes, it's political war between these two.
Robert Costa, thank you very much. And, you know, I'm anxiously awaiting what's going to happen, because I do feel like this is going to be not only a clash of personality, but hopefully a clash of ideas about not only their own records, but what they'll do in the future.
And you know, Nora, one of the things that comes back to me again and again is how serious the issues are that are facing the country right now. And that it has to be more than a tweet or a bumper sticker, and that we are excited there's a debate when that used to be the very basic expectation of what voters were required to hear, an actual cogent, explanation of what someone was offering when they were arguing to be your commander-in-chief.
And when there's a bipartisan agreement on immigration about how to do that, where Democrats went the most conservative that they've ever gotten and pushed them there, and they still couldn't get a deal done.
Americans can steal this debate back from the political system and say, they didn't answer my questions, they didn't talk about what I want, and demand that from the candidates. They don't have to take what's being fed tonight.
All right. Thanks to all of you, and our coverage of the CNN presidential debate will continue momentarily here on CBS News 24/7 and on your local CBS station. Up next, the next and first presidential debate.
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning.
Well, let me start with this. What is at stake here?
What is the answer then?
Do you know why?
You want me to just keep going?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Were there death threats?
How is this possible?
What's wrong with that argument?
Are you saying they lied?
Have you told the government that? Why won't you say the word crisis?
You're not answering my question.
Is this really
Is that serious?
Does that make sense?
What does that mean in
Did any of that make sense?
What's your response?
What happened?
Why?
It's time for the CBS News Original 60 Minutes, Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
There is no more room in our city.
New York City is receiving record numbers of migrants.
Today, we're going to have more than 500 adults and children come through that door.
Tensions rise as shelters reach max capacity.
We don't have to take care of them.
CBS Reports goes inside a crisis cities and families are facing as they fight to survive.
The United States still has a glimmer of hope for people to come here.
Fighting for a future. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
On Face the Nation, the way to learn is to listen.
We may have a recession.
Listening to how someone explains themselves is so key to understanding their perspective.
An original documentary from CBS Reports.
Since you started La Soup in 2014, do you have any sense as to how much food you've rescued from the landfill?
We've rescued 4.5 million pounds.
I can't even fathom how much food that is.
And that's one little person in one little city in America. We're going to call this chicken piccata. We did 450 of these meals today.
This is the exact dish that you and I are going to have.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Having a plan of how to keep people fed should be in every single city.
If we eliminated food waste, could we eliminate
hunger? Yes.
Eating Trash, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
America Decides, taking you inside American democracy.
The most important stories on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis.
You're going to hear a lot of reporting.
It is clearly a pivotal moment.
Gun control, the economy, education.
Both sides of the political aisle fight it out for power.
Bringing you the analysis that you need.
Thoughtfully, with context.
Be part of the conversation.
On CBS News streaming.
Welcome to America Decides.
When people say who's first to get in the morning, that would be me. Morning news matters because it sets the tone for your day, and it's a way of getting you started.
Day to day, that first draft of history, it happens right here.
We're going to uplift you. We're going to send you out your way.
We take you places, we teach you new things, and we make you feel like, it's not all bad.
People say to me, you always seem to be having a good time. And you know what? You're right.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
The stakes in this election couldn't be higher.
November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country.
This is a CBS News special, America Decides, the first presidential debate. Now reporting, Norah O'Donnell.
Good evening. We are just moments away from one of the most consequential events of this presidential campaign. President Biden and former President Trump face off in the first debate of the general election, the two meeting for the first time since 2020. They will outline their contrasting visions for America. This is also a chance for you, the voters, to judge the candidates in one of the only face-to-face confrontations before the election. Our CBS News team will be back after the debate for analysis and fact-checking. Now to Atlanta for the first presidential debate hosted by CNN.
Highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and Biden 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
2 minutes per
when it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or contact with campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
So just walking out, he looks frail. It looks like he's cognizant, but he looks frail.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
He looks like he's just determined. A little frail, but not much. He looks like he has a slouch in him.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed.
He did not say to inject bleach into your arm.
Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos.
Trump did not do much as president.
And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We
Yeah,
have
before
never done so
COVID,
well.
it was the best economy.
Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, the bounce back from the COVID. He has not.
There is attack number one. Going after Biden and illegal immigrants. I mean, it's been said that the only reason illegal immigrants are coming over in the ways that they are is because they feel like Biden's a weak president, and I don't really think that he's done much to show much strength in trying to secure our border. I will say that under Biden's America, America is, I mean, yes, the cost of living is going up, but so are wages, so are, I mean, people are still getting houses, so although it may look like we're in an inflation or a recession, when it comes down to what people are buying, it's really, it's the exact same. There is no real difference.
Done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term.
Very true. Trump increasing America's deficit was absolutely ridiculous. But I will always say this, the trickle-down economics does work. There's a reason why America is in the position it is, and it's not because of going from the middle and building out.
He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover.
Man, I swear to God, if Biden is going to run on this, it's just, I feel like it is bad faith to run on this because obviously there was COVID. We had the mask mandates. People literally were, they lost their job. They couldn't work because their job wasn't deemed a necessity, and then to try and say that Biden he's gained the most amount of jobs is just as ridiculous because obviously he just got all of those jobs from COVID, or the jobs that people lost from COVID back.
The idea that he did something that was significant, and the military. You know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that.
They killed people in Afghanistan under your watch because of your tactics.
He was president. We were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
Not beginning of your.
Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
You want to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned,
when it comes to Biden, everything's going to be the worst in history. And when it comes to Trump, it's going to be the best in history.
I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
That's true.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt.
So, my guess is that he intentionally made them end so that way then people would, if he didn't win the presidency, it would make it so that way then he could be like, hey, we had this under my presidency, I can give it back.
Why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred the tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine.
Yep.
And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation. And it's a shame.
Sick.
The damage he's done to our country.
I don't know if it's the mic,
and I'd love to
what,
ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy.
And it benefited
what
other
I'm going to do is
people,
fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt.
Know the math. It's a million, a billion.
Sure all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything.
So that's actually one of the big reasons my girlfriend went from being a Biden supporter in 2020 to a Trump supporter in 2024. Basically, she says that people feared us under Trump. That's not the case with Biden.
Thing they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Which is where it belongs.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
So if I had to guess, he's going to probably say no. It's going to hurt his base quite a bit, but I think that he will end up gaining quite a bit of other supporters or pro-choice supporters, people who understand that it is a life, but they also understand that it is a woman's body as well.
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't follow.
Damn, that actually surprised me that he says that. For some reason, I thought he was going to push hard towards his base, and to hear him come off as at least a little bit more moderate, that surprises me. I'm shocked.
Follow your heart, but you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical, because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is a guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous. And they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country. And they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
I definitely agree with that one.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a...
There has to be some sort of limit. To think that it is possible, I know very rare, extremely rare, but it does happen. People get 9 months into the pregnancy and are like, I no longer want to be pregnant. The thought that that can even become a thing is it's ridiculous. At that point, it's a child. It is a baby at that point.
A woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions on women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making those decisions. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
Good luck. You've had how long to fucking do it?
Take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the governor, former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true.
That is true.
Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship
that doesn't make it right.
51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period?
It's not going to happen. He's already said it's not going to happen.
6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where You had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we find ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages.
That had started under Obama, so how can you
That's not
just
the
say
right way
that?
to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
That's why I almost said the total
I really
ban.
don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
You just did. What the fuck you mean you're not going to say it?
Speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorists ever go through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed three people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the two greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world, and it had a huge impact on everything, not just border,
I don't think
on everything.
paying attention to what
He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care.
Wait. Didn't he just try to pass a bill to help out the veterans that the Republicans ended up vetoing? Like, how can you say he doesn't care about the veterans when he's the one actively trying to push legislation?
About our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by
Thank you,
allowing
President Trump.
all of these people to come in.
President
and it's
Biden.
a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act.
I believe it.
1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. Yeah. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war
like
against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all,
no ways. Give me 1 second, everyone.
Where are we going?
Add on this stream. So you need a gallon-sized jug and pour it into what?
I just need you to take his whole milk and put it in a platter.
How much?
Like 4 ounces or 6. Here's good. And this is the liquid one. I already got the onions in my room. Oh, we better not be eating. I don't know where Luna is.
Apparently I can't pour milk either.
Sorry, I was trying really hard to do it without you.
She makes it beautiful.
Savannah.
Here.
Can you please put water in it?
Yep.
Actually, just put it on the warmer first. I can take care of it.
Let me throw some water in.
No, put it on without the water. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's go find your kitty. Let's go find your kitty. Let's go find your kitty.
All right.
Veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers and 38...
So if I'm correct, the equipment we left behind was all like run down, and it wasn't even close to our best stuff. So I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty stupid that we left it there in the first place, but it's not like we left top tier fucking military equipment over there.
8 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind.
Yeah.
When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas.
There's no way to prove that.
Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did.
Any evidence of that?
Encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said
that. For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like that. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
That is a bold claim. Like, first off, if he can get them to quit the war, why can't he do it before the election? I would love to hear how he plans to end that war.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. They're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts, our intelligence people, as to how they can get Hamas like we did by now. You don't have to do it.
Does not look real.
And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons in our population.
I think that just screwed over Biden quite a bit. He is going to love that Trump is laughing. Yeah, Biden has fucked up so much on his words. It's literally only, maybe 30 minutes into this. I can't really understand what Biden's saying quite a bit of the time. And I don't know, I like Biden. I actually want Biden to win this. But if I was to go solely on this debate alone, Biden stands no chance, and I actually would want Trump. But if you go by policy, that's where I say Biden.
Centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO.
Trump is
the idea that we
destroying.
Have our strength lies in our
So Let's hear it. Just to brush the topics real quick. They talked about the economy. Both of them had some good points. Trump had the largest spending. Biden's at about half the spending than what Trump did in 4 years. Neither of them really stated a good tactic on how to go through with it or how to handle the economy, besides just saying, I'm going to get it done. When it came to abortion, Biden said that he agreed with Roe v. Wade, but then he also ended up saying that in the first trimester, it is, what did he say? It's up to the woman. In the second trimester, it's between the woman and medical. And then during the third trimester, it's between the woman and the state. Whereas Trump basically said he supports it for rape, incest, and medical necessity. Then it went on to the border. Trump brought on a lot of good points about how when it came to border crossings, this is the most it's ever been under Biden. That's when Biden first started to lose it, I believe, and he stopped making sense in a lot of what he was saying. Then it went on to, now we're on to foreign policy, where they're talking about the Ukraine war and the Israeli war. And I think Biden kind of fucked up with his base, because he said that he wants Hamas to be ended. And if you look at what a lot of the Democrats in his base want, it's for Israel to be a non-existent country. So that's half an hour and like 30 seconds.
As well. It may be a big ocean, but are we ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what...
He's basically comparing Putin to Hitler at this point, where Hitler said, oh, I just want to take this one area, and then all of a sudden ended up going to another area, which actually I believe was Poland next. I could be wrong there, but I believe it was Poland. And so that's basically what I think Biden's trying to get at here, is that Putin's going to be the next Hitler.
Tell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations, because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia, at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And I said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021.
Fucking Trump is annihilating in this debate. I don't understand how Biden even thinks he has a shot right now.
You rallied your supporters that day. Some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th.
Okay, a lot of people believe that. The only people who don't believe that are Republicans.
On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I want to make it crystal clear that he definitely did. He should have certified the election. He actively tried to fight against the certification of the election. And then he also tried to switch voters into making it so that way then it seemed like he ended up winning.
Say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down.
Yeah, but if you look why they turned it down, it makes sense. They didn't want... I mean, it would have looked even more like you were trying to create a coup if you were to get the military involved.
And the mayor of D.C., they turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see... I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it.
So true. Even so, when Joe Biden took the stage, he looked like he looked like a weak old man. And this is coming from someone who wants Biden to win. Trump was just too divisive. Granted, if he is going by what he says in this debate, I'm kind of leaning more towards Trump. But when Trump took the stage, he looked determined. He had a little, like a weird little, like, hunchback in his walk. But, I mean, other than that, he looked like he was determined. He knew what he was doing. Whereas Biden, I mean, look at the difference between the two faces. He looks like a deer caught in headlights, just. And then you got, I mean, granted, Trump speaking, so maybe we'll pause at that point when Biden's speaking and see if what the contrast is.
You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court, and they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing, and these people should be in jail, and they should be the ones who are being held
So
accountable.
I don't necessarily believe that these people deserve to be in jail. There's a lot of peaceful people who are still ending up serving jail sentences for literally just being there. I feel like it was basically a witch hunt from the beginning, where it's you're clearly Trump. That means you're clearly trying to fuck everything over. You're getting sentenced now for treason.
And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be.
Dude, that's literally been Biden since like 10, 15 minutes in. Trump is making fun of him quite a bit for it. Like, even though Trump's able to stay professional for the most part, he's still getting these quick little jabs in where some of them are fucking brutal. And Biden just doesn't have a good response. But yeah, there's been numerous times where you're sitting here like, what the fuck did he just say?
Be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done
Must
there
be talking about George
with
Floyd
the
right here.
fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of the, they took
for certain. So there's supposed to be, I believe they originally agreed to 2 debates. Honestly, after this debate, I'd be surprised if there is a second one. Biden is not looking strong by any means.
over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically 2 horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Nova, how would you feel if the next president is a convicted felon, the first convicted felon to be president?
The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues.
They didn't kill anybody.
The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked them the first 2 debates we had...
but you know, causing, what was it, $8 million worth of damage is a peaceful protest?
We had first time around. I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted
as long as we
you
have someone who knows everything he's doing, I'm cool with it. So, it's difficult. So, Biden has a cabinet. And if you look at the policies that Biden has enacted since being president, you have record bipartisan bills that have been passed. You have troops taken out of Afghanistan. Granted, I will admit that it is done terribly. But the fact that 4 other presidents said that they were going to get it done, and he finally actually got it done. You have the CHIPS Act, infrastructure bill, so many different things. Whereas the big thing that Trump can say is tax cuts and tariffs on China. That's really it. That's all Trump has under his belt. And so when you look at policy-wise, it'd be a no fucking brainer to who to have. But I really can't tell if Biden is competent at this point.
34 felonies last month. You said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo.
I don't know if
we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal.
Oh,
this
okay,
man,
I know what
you're
they're talking about
You're
now.
lucky. I did nothing wrong.
When Hunter Biden ended up getting prosecuted, there was, I don't know if it was ever confirmed, but there was an alleged that someone paid off the prosecutor to make it so then I don't remember if it was they just deemed him innocent or if they ended up getting a brand new prosecutor. But that's what he's talking about right here.
Have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever...
The thing is, Biden has done all that stuff, but when Trump was president, there really wasn't any wars in the world at all. I mean, yes, you do have a point. There was actually no new wars that America was put into under Trump. But the issue is that it's one of the situations where we will never know if these wars would have happened while Trump was in office. I mean, it's just, we can speculate. We can say, yeah, Trump was hard. He was tough. He was a threat. But it's all just speculation. There's no way to prove it unless they specifically say we went to war because Biden was president or because Trump wasn't president. It's difficult to... I understand that sounds good just to be like, well, yeah, no new wars under Trump, which is a great thing. I'm not trying to knock that by any means, but we'll never know if they would have happened regardless.
Never spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three.
Okay, to say... Oh, hold on. Let me...
So you are still charged with it.
So he just said no president has talked like that before. I don't really know the context of it, but there's been some presidents who have said some terrible fucking things.
Think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about?
Trump, I don't know, that was very slack. Can I back it up a second? Look at his smile whenever she says that.
Wife was pregnant. I mean, what are you
see,
talking
like,
about?
I did that.
Yeah. An alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam, and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again. Until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to
Yeah, if it was up to me, we would have had Nikki Haley as the Republican president. She's still pretty damn Republican, but she's a lot more competent, and I really like her policies.
Mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. Good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that story. He just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country. Be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And
so who states what a reasonable anchor is? Is it just people who believe what you have to say, or is there any actual criteria in this?
Just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches.
Yeah, I mean, Nova, I hate to say this to you, but there's always one great way to make it so then you don't have to deal with ads. And that is by supporting the stream in the best way possible, which is with the sub. Obviously, I'm not forcing you to. I'm not telling you have to, but it is a great way to make it so then you don't have ads. Either that or yell at Zoe to gift you a sub. That's what you should do.
Then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president.
Yeah, again, just yell at Zoe. Be like, hey, Zoe, I don't want to watch ads when I watch Brogy's stream. Can you please gift me a sub?
Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not?
Biden is giving a good point right here. Clearly, even Trump's own cabinet members and vice president they either don't believe in him or they lost all support for him. The fact that you have that many people just 1 year are right by his side and the next year being unsupportive, there's obviously a reason for that.
Endorsing him.
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
I can skip the ad. Oh, shit.
Debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are...
So the reason being, you have to look at why. Why are black women more likely to die during pregnancy? It has nothing to do with racism. Stream is laggy for me. It might be because I have too much shit up. Hold on. Hopefully that fixes it. It's not because there's racism in the medical field. It's literally because different races suffer different medical conditions at different rates. For black women, I believe Fuck, I can't think of it. But one that is a huge factor in death in black women. It's a lot more significant to happen in a black pregnant female than, and it has nothing to do with racism.
Imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time.
That's true.
Number three,
very true.
We're providing housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. Legislation in the past reduce black child care costs, cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care,
it's not giving that point right now.
You increase economic growth.
The only thing is how are you going to do
in the
this?
Job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed.
How do I?
Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more.
I don't know how to make it better, unfortunately. Not unless I can somehow boost my internet.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all of the other, all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people.
Come on. That shit's being all fucked right now. Why is it being all fucked? Should be unconnected. Because even my phone's just being kind of fucked. And now I'm having issues with trying to click things on my... Oh, that program did not freeze, but I'm having issues still trying to push it. So that works. What the fuck? Oh, okay. I think it's slowly getting back to what it needs to. Let's go back to there. Alright, it should be good. Okay, let's try that real quick.
Taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
What's going to be the worst thing in history?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy.
I hate that Biden is able to use this. The fact that we were in a fucking pandemic, yet he can still say that we were... that it was record low unemployment and he got these jobs back. It's so fucking stupid.
That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the
still being
idea
all laggy.
that we're not doing it.
I don't necessarily want to just quit it. Okay, so I need that. I need, there's updates on my goddamn computer. That's what it is. Fucking A. That means I might end up having to restart the stream. Just make sure you come back if I restart, okay, Nova? Fucking A. How far behind am I? I'm only 17 minutes behind, not too bad. I don't know if you guys can see it, so I just typed it in chat. Please hurry up. on that. Alright, that should have made it better. Emphasis on should have. And then I just rewinded it to right before the commercial break. I'm fucking far behind on this thing though, about half hour. Let me go back here. I'm back. Are you here though? Oh, why is my mic not working? It works in this. Oh. There we go. Maybe?
Oh, hello?
Hello.
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 Anyways, you
Yep.
know you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
You know the like the music style hardstyle where it's just like shit, like kind of like metal but not. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that shit's fire. But anyway, so I was thinking about it. You know the song "Hey There, Delilah"?
Yep.
That needs to get put into a hardstyle. And I looked at it. I was trying to look it up on my way home today from work, but then I found this playlist called White Girl Hardstyles. Mistakenly found that shit. Dude, it's so good though. All of like the songs that you don't even expect it. They're just too good. Like I don't know.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. Anyways, how's shit been for you?
How's the what going for me?
How's everything going for you?
Pretty good.
How's work?
I
human
have
that you
officially.
spawned in.
Wait, what?
How's a little human that you spawned in?
He is doing fantastic, other than teething right now.
That sucks.
He just gets cranky, and you want to be there and help him in every way, shape, and form. But no matter what you do, he's just fucking cranky, and it's
Sounds like
it's
a
not
woman.
his fault. No, it's slightly better.
Oh shit. Okay. Damn.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, at least with Dakota, you know what's wrong.
That's true.
Yeah.
Huh. It's good to hear he's not doing too bad.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
man.
we're trying to buy a house. I mean, I get a raise next month, which will be nice.
Fuck yeah, love that.
Yep. And then, other than that, it's just fucking. I'm started back streaming again. Now I just need to get my following back up. Speaking of which, if you got a sub, I'd appreciate it. Obviously you don't have to.
I don't know if I do.
No worries.
At the moment.
No worries.
But next week we get one.
Sounds good. Fucking, like I said, I'm trying to stream more often. Right now, it's this is the first time this week, but last week I streamed like 3-4 days.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm just got to get back into it one way or another, and if I yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when my fucking sub ends for this. Cause I've been using like a Prime sub.
Yeah.
And like I had it on like one stream. I just like never watched him, and then moved to another stream, and then I never watched him either. So I'm like, fuck.
Did you order pizza already? Okay, I was getting a call, so I just wanted to make sure that wasn't them. Too late. They already. Are you saying you did order it? No audio. What the fuck?
No audio.
It's showing that. Oh, call. Never mind.
You're reacting too hard.
Okay. Okay. There is audio. So wait. I'm sorry. What was the call? Oh, what the fuck? Well, can you go get it? You didn't tell me you ordered it. You just said shut up.
That's because you said the callback comes to me.
That's because I assumed it was. But now I missed a call and I don't know what to do.
Call him back.
It's a call box. So I can't just call it back. Oh, why is my thing still being all fucked? I should have good internet connection.
Who is
I'm
this? And why
hoping
does your
that they
emoji
call
look
back.
hot as fuck?
Wait, what?
She's a boy. God damn it.
I think I know what you're talking about. The one in life events?
Wait, what?
Who are you talking? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I saw this like I was on Snapchat and I saw them
okay.
and this girl like hot as fuck. But then I saw she had a boyfriend. Like,
So my love, are you
Women
gonna
are
go
stupid at
get the pizza? Yes, sir. Hold your horses. Okay. Well, you're not giving me any information. You're just.
She wants your balls.
Well, I asked her if she ordered it. She just said shut up. So I'm assuming that she didn't. And then I asked.
Said it came to me. I wanted to be a surprise.
We can switch if you.
Yes.
I mean, whenever I called, it did go to you, so it's not my fault.
Probably called me.
I don't. No, I didn't. I specifically put my name. But hopefully they got a hold of you.
They didn't.
Are you lying?
No.
Hopefully I have pizza still.
They take it back.
Alright, I gotta get back into the stream. It's 90 minutes and I'm so fucking far behind.
That's okay. I'm going to the gym anyway. But,
Sounds good, man.
Hope that stream goes well.
Definitely. Talk to you later. Hope the gym goes well.
Appreciate it. See you later.
Peace out.
Still earn far less.
Alright, so I ended up rewinding it back to the commercial.
Mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes.
Is it still...
Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed? That
Nova, are you still having issues at my stream?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate.
I was only paying attention, to be honest with you, so.
To keep people out of their houses. In addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first
that's because most of them are, a lot of them, not most, are committing crimes.
I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit.
Everyone should get a $10,000 tax credit.
Get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all
give me $10,000 tax credit.
Who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right.
Still no audio. What the fuck? Hold on. Hello. Oh. There's no audio in anything. Holy shit. Go properties. Desktop. Hello. Nope, still nothing. Go here. Hold on, let me rewind it a bit so that way then I can.
To a record low under your presidency.
There we go.
Families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely
to
die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters?
Got nothing from your mic or the video? What the fuck? Hello. What the hell? Maybe they disconnected from here. Let's go up. This is still up. So this should be working. Properties. Microphone. That should be working. There's the mic. Okay. So we got the mic figured out. Alright. So now...
You haven't made more progress.
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the
There we
matter
go.
is more small black
I don't know what the fuck I did.
started at any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time.
Went to wages to
Number three,
unemployment.
we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among
I don't know what the fuck was wrong.
these corporations that collude to keep people out of
Is it still having loading issues?
in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs.
I see a pizza.
Make sure because when you provide that child
No, I do not need a plate.
you increase economic
Thank you,
growth
though.
because more people can be in the
Thank you,
job
beautiful.
market. So
Thank you for
more to
getting
be done,
pizza.
considerably more to be done.
I love you.
But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left.
I love
What
you
do
too.
say to black voters who are
Sounds good, Nova. Thank you so much for the support in general. I appreciate you, man.
Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000.
Everyone should get a $10,000 tax credit for buying a
So
home.
they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years.
Nova says, hello,
they
Mrs.
get-
Brogy.
All the rest was forgiven after 10 years. Millions of
Mrs. Brogy.
And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Because I'm
Thank you,
Brogy.
President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's
Wait, what?
always been very bad. He caused the inflation.
Exactly.
And it's killing black
Yeah.
families and Hispanic families and just about
Love you.
everybody. It's
Bye.
killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam.
Yeah, I
and all
kinda
the
see it as a
other-
hunch.
All this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused
It's
it.
no good. It's no
Sure,
problem, Nova.
The
Fucking,
fact
she
is
was
that
more or less
his
just
biggest
being
kill on the black people
ridiculous.
is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it.
Because I was like, I'm Brogy. And she goes, yep, that's what it says in my Azeron.
Yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing it, we put more police
So,
on the street.
from what it seems like is, Biden doesn't really know what Trump's policies are. He just goes off of what he believes the typical Republicans would be. Like, I feel like Trump has straight up proved him wrong numerous times. For one, such as in the abortion incident. Biden was saying how he's gonna repeal whatever and take away everything, and Trump's like, well, no, I'm gonna have rape, incest, and medical necessities still be an option. Like, I mean, I guess if you have to use that rhetoric, then you have to use it, but it's not gonna let him win. Like, he's gonna lose.
The administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge.
His tremendous mouthed feasance. Those all
is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the...
I feel like if you were to try and read Biden's face right here, it's like, oh my God, how dare he bring that up? How dare he make this up? How dare he say this?
Black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job. Great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever. The best numbers.
Yeah, best numbers when it comes to Republicans, that's for sure.
Black population, because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything.
Nuclear?
And yet, during my 4 years, I had the
was
best
just wind,
environmental numbers
air,
ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic
water.
Just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges.
What does that have to do with climate change?
They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately
because the climate accord was terrible.
He 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion.
Yep.
And China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs.
Biden get it down to $15?
They want everybody.
Like cap?
I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Well, Medicaid was already fucked.
We, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to, the United States can't get its under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we continue to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who will learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day,
Oh, he
millions of
stopped.
Americans
He should have kept
struggle
going.
to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security
It's like,
solvent?
give me
Or
one.
Is that one enough?
Gave you one. Now you're
That
like,
one enough
you still have
will
over a
solve it.
minute.
The biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get.
If we
rid of
defeat
Social
this
Security.
man.
He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. The only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition.
Can I do
just
single?
don't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen him.
Jesus, that's some fucking bullshit. What about Hillary?
So many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it. because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security, they're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid, they're putting them in our hospitals, they're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back.
So eventually it does end. It was the end.
In our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why
because of illegal immigrants?
In the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said...
Please tell me he fucking addresses that and says something other than... or leaves with... Please tell me he changes it so it doesn't just insinuate that the reason the economy is so good is because of illegal immigrants.
President in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care
for one
more
child,
affordable?
it's more than my rent.
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired
Please
a lot
follow
of
the
top people
fucking
at
prompt.
The FBI drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He wasn't fired. Did you fire
That's not
anybody?
saying much.
Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed?
Straight up ignoring
Joe,
this.
is being destroyed.
I guess because he
as you
doesn't
and I
have
sit
an
up here
answer.
and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online.
This is the strongest Biden has sounded.
Presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing with child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
Facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst. Because
see, he doesn't have an answer for this, so he just keeps on going off onto this other fucking tangent.
And if I'm given
and Biden knows it too.
I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire, so everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country.
Yeah.
The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are at the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you,
all right.
The
I like this one.
of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy.
Jesus Christ.
We have the largest deficit.
Does he not have a response to this? This is sad.
He's a candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit.
Because he said that 3
in the
fucking
history
times.
of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough, and it was the drugs pouring across the border. It started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways.
He said at the beginning that yours increased too.
Women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers small numbers.
Yeah, at some point, I'm just trying to get this thing fucking over with so I can go to
we
bed.
got that deal done. He called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out
For the
very
reporter.
quickly. As soon as I take office, before I take office, I said by literally...
None of this
as
has
soon as I
anything
win
to
the
do with
election,
opiates.
I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President
Oof.
Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what
That's
I've done.
debatable.
I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips.
Let's
those
pretend by the
fabs
CHIPS
pay
Act.
over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before.
That's so false.
Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America.
That's
all
true.
our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Any evidence of this,
Thank
or
you.
is it just conjecture?
Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're...
When did he say that?
Just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. That he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you
Let's
pledge
not
tonight
act like children.
that
You
once
are
all
shy.
legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation.
What
We're
about Obama?
It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people.
Get Obama to say that, and
Anything,
you
step up
instantly
when
have
we're
my
needed.
vote.
And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing
Man,
from
I'm
me.
getting so tired. Just let me go
Now
sleep.
he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with... He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless
Yes
of
or
who wins?
no?
Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
I'm going to have to copy
Let's see
that
what your
one.
numbers
That's
are when
hilarious.
this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner.
You're such
The
a
idea
whiner.
If you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
We've made significant progress.
Does it keep going here? No. Roughly a couple minutes left.
It is now
PM.
time for the candidates
Wait.
to deliver their closing
so I'm almost
statements
an
as
hour
predetermined
behind.
by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair?
Yep.
The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes. And, and if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again.
They're making
But
$400,000,
this guy
so they're still paying a
has
shit
increased their
ton of
taxes because
taxes.
of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example,
It's not necessarily a
get
bad
rid
thing
of-
with the tariff.
Get rid of
Like, yeah,
the
it
ability
sucks,
of
but
Medicare
you're going to end up having other countries paying
the
more.
ability for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies.
It gets so
Well,
antsy.
guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400.
Yeah,
no
that's
more
pretty
than
ridiculous.
$2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do, all he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world.
Please.
What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Done. All right. I fucking love streaming, but I am exhausted, McCaden. I want to fucking go to bed. Yeah. Who's all on? How do we actually here? Oh, I was gonna click on that for some fucking reason. Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right now.